Nobody's going to question his honor and his character. I read this, and I literally wanted to rinse myself off afterwards. I felt completely disgusted, beginning with that first awkward handshake that we saw on camera when Director Comey and the president met, and it started as a handshake, turned into kind of a half hug. You could tell, it was palpable how uncomfortable Director Comey was. I went through this line by line, and as you spoke to, the only problems I had with Director Comey's actions, I've spoken on CNN Air many times about people on both sides of the issue can come down and say, hey, we disagreed with how he handled it, or we supported it. My only issue was, why didn't he go to his superiors? And I think this document, this statement for record, explains why. He knew that Attorney General Sessions had to recuse himself. He knew that the folks that were at the head of the Department of Justice at the time were only going to be there for a short period of time. And he was concerned about influencing the Russian collusion investigation. He didn't want his agents, he didn't want the prosecutors to be...
He said he didn't want them to be afraid to go ahead with it.
Absolutely.
So he said nothing, right? And he does explain that in here.
Yes.
And you buy that.
I do. I do buy that only because as you look through this document, this statement for the record, and as David pointed out, this is uncommon for this to be released before he testifies tomorrow. This is a testimonial document. In 25 years in the FBI, I was explicitly forbidden from putting my opinion into a testimonial document. This is rife with opinion.
Oh, it is. He says, my instinct, I felt compelled. Yeah.
There's another point here.
Yes.
Is that he did go to his superior at one point. He goes to Attorney General Sessions and says, don't let me alone in the room. Right. And remember, the February 14th meeting, the weirdness of that is that he excuses Vice President Pence, Attorney General Sessions from the room. Talk about consciousness of guilt. So why couldn't he talk in front of them? Because he knew what he was doing was inappropriate.
I want to read the quote because I think the word, and Comey, I mean, reading this, he's not a guy who uses, you know, insane verbs, okay, except for in this case. So let me read it. Shortly afterwards, I spoke with Attorney General Sessions in person to pass along the president's concern about leaks. I took the opportunity to implore the Attorney General to prevent any future direct communication between the president and me. Implore is the word that he used. And by the way, he then goes ahead and lays out a couple more phone calls that were just between him and the president. So the president obviously did not heed that advice if he received it from the Attorney General.
Well, and this, you know, this also portrays someone in James Comey who felt like he couldn't go to anybody. He said, as he wrote in his testimony, he didn't want to, quote, infect the investigation, so he had to wall off the people who were doing the investigating. He goes to his superiors. He goes to Sessions. He goes to Bente, right? And he and then he doesn't get an answer about what to do. So it portrays this picture of James Comey as sort of trying to figure out what the right thing to do is here. And there seems to be very few people he can confide in except his leadership team, with whom he entrusted, you know, his notes and his memories of these meetings.
Yeah, I think it's very important that he did share it with his leadership team, as Gloria was just pointing out, because that again is contemporaneous. Telling to other people about what's happening. So this is made up after the fact, after he was fired. He told people then. But I'd love to hear, can you expand on your sentence about you had to rinse off after
I know, I had that. I was going to come back to on that. So what, because I said, was it Jim Comey that made you want to rinse off, or the President of the United States?
No, it was just the vision of a small table in the green room with the President and the FBI director seated there having a quiet lunch in a cavernous room with two Navy stewards waiting on them, and Director Comey feeling uncomfortable, awkward, knowing that they shouldn't be having that one.
This is the loyalty pledge. The President asked for the loyalty pledge.
And Aaron, do this for 48 years. And David, you could certainly speak to this. 48 years, FBI Director Hoover pulled puppet strings and had presidents on their heels.
Did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
You told the president, I would see what we could do. What did you mean?
It was kind of a slightly cowardly way of trying to avoid telling him we're not going to do that, that I would see what we could do. It was a way of kind of getting off the phone, frankly. And then I turned and handed it to the acting Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Bente.
The decision to publicly go out with your results on the email, was your decision influenced by the Attorney General's tarmac meeting with the former President Bill Clinton?
Yes, in a ultimately conclusive way. That was the thing that capped it for me, that I had to do something separately. Probably the only other consideration that I guess I can talk about in open setting is that at one point the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter.
So on the cloud, we keep talking about this cloud. You perceive the cloud to be the Russian investigation in general.
Yes, sir.
Right? But his specific ask was that you would tell the American people what you had already told him, what you had already told the leaders of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, that he was not personally under investigation.
Yes, sir.
In fact, he was asking you to do what you have done here today.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And just to be clear, for you to make a public statement that he was not under investigation would not have been illegal, but you felt it made no sense because it could potentially create a duty to correct if circumstances changed.
Yes, sir. We wrestled with it before my testimony where I confirmed that there was an investigation.
Going back, the three requests were, number one, be loyal. Number two, let the Mike Flynn thing go. He's a good guy. He's been treated unfairly. And number three, can you please tell the American people what these leaders in Congress already know, what you already know, what you've told me 3 times, that I'm not personally under investigation?
Those are the 3 things he asked. Yes, sir.
You know, this investigation is full of leaks left and right. I mean, we've learned more from the newspapers sometimes than we do from our open hearings, for sure. Do you ever wonder why, of all the things in this investigation, the only thing that's never been leaked is the fact that the president was not personally under investigation, despite the fact that both Democrats and Republicans and the leadership of Congress knew that and have known that for weeks? Now, on a number of occasions here, you bring up, let's talk now about the general Russia investigation, okay? In page 6 of your testimony, you say, the first thing you say is, he asked what we could do to, quote unquote, lift the cloud, the general Russia investigation, and you responded that we were investigating the matter as quickly as we could and that there would be great benefit if we didn't find anything to having done the work well. And he agreed. He reemphasized the problems it was causing him, but he agreed. So in essence, the president agreed with your statement that it would be great if we could have an investigation, all the facts came out, and we found nothing. So he agreed that that would be ideal, but this cloud is still messing up my ability to do the rest of my agenda. Is that an accurate assessment of?
Yes, sir. He actually went farther than that. He said, and if some of my satellites did something wrong, it'd be good to find that out.
Well, that's the second part, and that is the satellites. He said if one of my satellites, I imagine by that he meant some of the other people surrounding his campaign did something wrong, it would be great to know that as well.
Yes, sir. That's what he said.
Quote, I hope, this is the president speaking, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Now, those are his exact words. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you wrote them here and you put them in quotes?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. He did not direct you to let it go.
Not in his words, no.
He did not order you to let it go.
Not in his words.
Again, those words are not an order.
No.
And the reason I keep saying his words is I took it as a direction.
Right.
I mean, this is the President of the United States with me alone saying, I hope this. I took it as this is what he wants me to do. Now, I didn't obey that, but that's the way I took it.
And as you perceived it, while it was a request that you hoped you did away with it, you perceived it as an order, given his position, the setting, and the like, and some of the circumstances.
Yes.
Do you believe that you were fired because you refused to take the president's direction? Is that the ultimate reason?
I don't know for sure. I know I was fired. Again, I take the president's words. I know I was fired because of something about the way I was conducting the Russia investigation was in some way putting pressure on him, in some way irritating him, and he decided to fire me because of that.
It had been appropriate for the Attorney General, or if she had recused herself, which she did not do, for the Deputy Attorney General to appoint a special counsel. That's essentially what's happened now with Director Mueller. Would that have been an appropriate step in the Clinton email investigation, in your opinion?
Certainly a possible step, yes, sir.
And were you aware that Ms. Lynch had been requested numerous times to appoint a special counsel and had refused?
Yes, I think members of Congress had repeatedly asked. Yes, sir.
Yours truly did on multiple occasions. And that heightened your concerns about the appearance of a conflict of interest with the Department of Justice, which caused you to make what you have described as an incredibly painful decision to basically take the matter up yourself and led to that July press conference.
Yes, sir. After the former President Clinton, met on the plane with the Attorney General, I considered whether I should call for the appointment of a special counsel, and I decided that that would be an unfair thing to do because I knew there was no case there. We had investigated it very, very thoroughly. I know this is a subject of passionate disagreement, but I knew there was no case there, and calling for the appointment of a special counsel would be brutally unfair because it would send the message, aha, there's something here. That was my judgment. Again, lots of people have different views of it.
I remember you talked with us shortly after February 14th when the New York Times wrote an article that suggested that the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians. You remember reading that article when it first came out?
I do. It was about allegedly extensive electronic surveillance.
Correct.
Communications. Yes.
And that upset you to the point where you actually went out and surveyed the intelligence community to see whether you were missing something in that. Is that correct?
That's correct. I want to be careful in open setting.
I'm not going to go any further than that.
Okay.
With it, so thank you. In addition to that, after that, you sought out both Republican and Democrat senators to tell them that, hey, I don't know where this is coming from, but this is not the case. This is not factual. Do you recall?
You mean the New York Times was inventing stuff?
So again, so the American people can understand this, that report by the New York Times was not true. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, in the main, it was not true.
But it's still ongoing.
Correct. So far as I know, it was when I left.
That investigation was going on. This investigation is going on. You reached separate conclusions.
No, that one was done. That
investigation of any involvement of Secretary Clinton or any of her associates is completed.
Yes, as of July the 5th, the FBI completed its investigative work, and that's what I was announcing, what we had done and what we had found.
Secretary Clinton, for any activities involved in the Russia involvement in our engagement in our election. I don't quite understand how you could be done with that, but not done with the whole investigation of their attempt to affect the outcome of our election.
No, I'm sorry. We're not, at least when I left, when I was fired on May the 9th, there was still an open, active investigation to understand the Russian efforts and whether any Americans work with them.
But you reached the conclusion that there was no reason to bring charges against Secretary Clinton. So you reached a conclusion. In the case of Mr. Comey, the President Comey, excuse me, in the case of President Trump, you have an ongoing investigation. So you got one candidate who you're done with and another candidate that you have a long way to go. Is that correct?
If the president wanted to stop an investigation, how would he do that? Knowing it's an ongoing criminal investigation or counterintelligence investigation, would that be a matter of trying to go to you perceive, and to say you make it stop because he doesn't have the authority to stop? Or how would the president make an ongoing investigation stop?
Again, I'm not a legal scholar, so smarter people answer this better, but I think as a legal matter, the president is the head of the executive branch and could direct, in theory, we have important norms against this, but direct that anybody be investigated or anybody not be investigated.
Every morning before I start writing or shooting a video, I take 2 capsules of Brain Force for a sustainable burst of energy. This is, without question, the most powerful nootropic I've ever taken, and it comes without any of the crashes or the jitters associated with energy drinks. It's additive-free, nothing artificial. It's Brain Force Plus. Read thousands of 5-star independent reviews right now and get your Brain Force Plus at InfoWarsLife.com.